Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Andy Demi here with Capital Markets Elite Group. Welcome to tonight's presentation on how to interpret indicators like a pro. Okay, so let's begin. Now, before we go into the presentation, as always, it's very, very important to check out our risk disclaimer, which essentially it kind of guides you on the risks associated with trading. Now, whilst you take a minute to read that, let me also kind of give you some important information that tonight's presentation, the main aim and goal of it is to help you improve your education, to give you an edge in the markets. However, it should not be interpreted as financial advice. So we will be looking at opportunities. We will be taking a look at different stocks, using some of the tools that we're going to teach you. However, anything that I look at, any levels, anything that I consider, it is for education to help you improve your own understanding. When you are trading, it's very, very important to basically have your own trade plan and to make your own trading decisions. Okay, so please take a minute, have a review of the risk disclaimer, and then we're going to get started. Okay, so let us begin. What is the agenda for the presentation? So the agenda, the first thing we want to speak about is the common mistakes when interpreting the RSI, the MACD, and the stochastic oscillator, and how to correct them for better results. We're also going to speak about how professionals use these indicators and what they do when readings conflict or are unreliable. We're going to look at some examples of some of the popular stocks that adhere to these indicators and produce predictable results, and others that are more challenging. And then we're going to use some advanced strategies to apply these indicators across both the short and medium term timeframes. Okay, so with that being said, what I'd like to do right now is begin by looking at the live markets. Okay, so let's head into our platform and let's go straight into looking at the S&P 500. So we're going to incorporate some indicators here. Now, one of the things that's very, very important in trading is to understand context. So which tool should we be using and when? Okay, now the standard ones that I have always got is I've always got the MACD, I've always got the RSI down below, and here I've always got the moving averages. Okay, so the moving averages that I prefer to use are as follows. The green one here is the 200 moving average. The red one here is the 50-day moving average. The blue one is the 21, and then the yellow one is the 8 moving average. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and start to interpret some of what we can see here. So the first thing that I can see is we have a clear uptrend. You can see that the market is generally going higher, but also what you can also see is that you can see the moving averages are fanning very, very nicely. In other words, the 200 sits below the 50 sits below the 21, and the 21 sits below the 8. That is a perfect trend. Now, if you kind of go back and have a look in the past, look how, so here we've been pretty much above the 200 most of the time, apart from a few blips. But you can see when you have all three aligned this way, you have really nice trends. So you have it around, let me just point it out to you here. So here we had that perfect, let's use yellow, perfectly. And then here it happened again. And then look how the market went higher. Okay. And then let's play it out. Once we kind of crossed below, we kind of consolidated, pulled back. And then again, if you have a look, we've started this trend again. And you can see the previous one really lasted for quite some time. So the same could happen again. Now, since it's happening, one of the things that I like to do is I like to look for patterns. So I like to see, right, which moving averages have held in the past. And you can see this blue one has been holding very, very nicely in the past. So I would really love for price to catch up with this blue moving average. Now, if you have a look at this trend up in the S&P 500, you can see it didn't often hit the 21, the blue line. I only kind of got close there, hit it there and there, and then once here. Most of the time it was pulling back to the 8, okay? Right now, the 8 is sitting around here, okay? So again, this is quite a nice one. We touched it there. At the moment, we've just kind of pulled away from it. So again, I would love to see a bit of consolidation or potentially a pullback. Now, bear in mind, this is a weekly time frame. So what are the indicators showing us? Well, the MACD actually is showing us that we could go higher here. In other words, we are converging with price action. So price is going up. The indicator is also going up. Now, the RSI on the other side is actually in overbought territory. Now, let me just kind of have a little look to see what number it's at. So right now it's at 75, okay? Now, we haven't had anything like that since here. And then look what happened. I mean, this got to 78, and then the market basically fell off. This one here got quite close to overbought. So what I'm also looking at is patterns. So the way that it's gone up. So look at this here. Can look similar to that. Also looks similar to that, right? And so I can see similarities. So I would be a little bit cautious right now. However, I would be thinking, are we going to get a significant pullback like this? It's possible. I'm not expecting that, but based on the past, it's happened before, even here where we got to 70. So it's possible. We're in that territory right now. Now, if you kind of have a look, even recently when we got to 70, the market did pull back. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw some support lines. Okay. So that is, let me see if I can make that a little bit better fit there. I'm going to just remove this one. And I'm just going to try and get a good line fit here. So for me, I really like that kind of area there. That would be quite nice. Let me just have a little look. Yeah. On the flip side, if this market is strong, then maybe a pullback into here, which is also old resistance, so somewhere like around there. So if we just put a horizontal line there, or let's also draw another horizontal line somewhere that's going to be quite close to the trend line. To be honest, I'd probably choose, well, I'll put a couple of lines. So we've got quite a decent level here. So it's quite reactive here, support, resistance, resistance, resistance. So that might be a little bit low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one more a little bit higher. That's quite nice as well. So any kind of, if we can kind of pull back, any of these kind of levels look like decent opportunities. This one being the best value one for sure. And then that would coincide with potentially the RSI then dropping off and going into the buy zone. Okay, so that's the S&P 500. Now let's go and have a little look at some stocks. Okay. In fact, let me have a quick little look at the NASDAQ as well. So the NASDAQ is just simply ranging right now. You can see that in the way that the moving averages are kind of just cutting through each other, going up and down. So right now, until we break through, this channel resistance, essentially we are pretty much doing this. Okay. So that's what the NASDAQ is doing. So let's go have a little look at the some stocks. So we'll begin with Apple. So what is Apple doing? Well, right now we are failing to break through this high. There's a little bit of weakness here on the MACD. The RSI is, this is kind of level. This is going down. There's a little bit of divergence there. For me, this is just consolidating, potentially, a nice pullback somewhere here into this level here would be quite nice. But you can see even here with the MACD, it's flat, crossing through, up and down. It just looks like a range right now in Apple. Let's have a little look at Google. Now, Google, you can see actually is trending much nicer. You can see that from the moving averages, okay? So you have the 200, the 50, the 21, and the 8. It's actually come into a bit of a buy zone, so it's quite nice on this zone. So what you could do is you could go down to a lower time frame and then look for opportunities to buy this. So let me bring up the hourly chart. You can see right now there is a pattern, okay, a nice triangle pattern like that. So, these kind of symmetrical patterns are trickier to play simply because they are, this is, because it's symmetrical, it's not a definite level. So what we should do is try and find a definite level. So for example, if we just push our line up, something like that looks like a nice level of resistance. You can even see there, resistance, support, resistance, resistance, resistance. So that level is about 147.54. Okay. So what I would like to see on this one is a break above and then a retest either of this level or of this line. So then we have this zone here where that becomes a potential buy zone. Okay. You can also use other things like Fibonacci and so on, but right now that's kind of what I would be looking for on this one. So in summary, the weekly time frame is on a 21 moving average. That is showing us that it is in a potential buy area. And then we have gone on to the hourly time frame, identified a symmetrical triangle. We've identified a horizontal level. And we've said, hey, if you break this level, look for a pullback. Look for a pullback into this zone, and then that can become a buy zone. So really like this level. I'd love to see a nice green candle above, and then any pullbacks to go. I mean, we want to kind of take this high out. Also, just bear in mind, there is a gap. Okay, so normally gaps like to get filled. Let me just put a horizontal line where the gap is. So the gap gets filled around 152.69. So it might be a case that, you know, don't kind of FOMO into this. Like, it could be a case that we don't immediately pull back. You know, either we do or we don't. But let's say we don't, and then it carries on. Chances are, as soon as you hit this gap fill, the market's going to come back down. Okay, and then you can use that as your zone for potential buys. And you can also draw your Fibonacci from like here to here and see where the 61.8 would come in as well. That's kind of the most popular fib level. Okay. Now, if you're watching this on the recording, you know, I do encourage you to join live because you can also ask questions. I know a lot of people watch the recording, but if you are here, then you can ask questions. So do join us on the next one. Right, let's see what the next one is that we want to look at. Let's have a look at Amazon. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the higher time frames first. Right. So again, I know it looks a little bit messy. Let's clean this up a little bit. Let's see. There you go. So the first thing that's really easy to see is, you know, what is the indicators saying? Well, the moving averages are all fanning. That's very bullish. The MACD is converging. Okay, here. And the MACD, by the way, we mentioned about using the indicators in the correct way. The MACD is a trending indicator, and the fact that this is trending means we should be checking this out. And convergence is exactly what you want to see for a continuation of that trend. Now, what about the RSI? Well, the RSI has been bullish. Okay, it is converging. In other words, it's making higher highs. However, just bear in mind, we are in the overbought area. Now, if we have a look in the past, we were overbought here, didn't really pull back, and it went a bit higher, but eventually it did pull back. Okay, and it actually created some divergence. So if I just show you here, market made a higher high, RSI did not, and in fact so did the MACD. So right now that's not the same thing, because right now we have convergence. The MACD is also converging with price. So therefore, you know, the market could go higher. Now, in terms of indicators, yes, we are overbought, but it could go higher. However, when we look at price action, I would be a little bit concerned about all of this. This here is a big block of resistance. Okay, it's a big ceiling. And therefore, I would just be, again, a little bit cautious because there's a lot of selling that happened there in the past, isn't there? And those sellers may want to sell again. So it's going to take some effort to really break through that. So right now, I think there will probably be better opportunities at these kind of levels. Okay, next, let's have a little look at Netflix. Okay, Netflix, which entertains us every day. So let's take a little look. So right now, this is looking really strong. Have a look at the candles. Really nice, strong green. Look at this candle here. Really nice. Then we create this little flag here. And it looks like we are breaking through to potentially go higher. The MACD is also converging. RSI is also converging. Again, we are overbought. No real sign at the moment of a pullback. I'm just trying to have a little look to see. I mean, we haven't had a bar like this. Is one of the biggest bullish bars we've had in a very, very long time. I mean, we had a bullish bar there, but I mean, this is even bigger. And then after that bullish bar, the market came back to the 21 and then took off. If it was to do the same thing, 21 at the moment is sitting at this really nice level around 496.82. Okay. Now I want to go on to the 4-hour time frame here to see if there is anything we can draw, any conclusions as well. So to have a little look at this immediately on the lower time frame, what do we see, everybody? Okay, so even if you're watching the recording, you can shout it out, see if you're right. What is happening there, everybody? Well, this is divergence. Okay, divergence. Which means hidden weakness. So I would be a little bit wary. I mentioned the 498 or 496, I believe. Let's mark that down. Where is that? About there. Yeah, this is a really nice level as well because we actually have this gap that normally likes to get filled. So I would love to see this go a little bit higher, really kick that divergence in again, then fail and then go all the way down here towards 500 or so. And then I think here would be where I would be looking to buy this around there. And we can even possibly draw some kind of support line. Look at that. Nice support line there. Let me clear this up. I'll let's change the color. Let's make it purple and a bit thicker. You can see 1 touch, 2 touch, 3, and then it would be bringing you quite. So if this was to do what I mentioned there, fills the gap, and I think here would represent a very nice potential buy. Okay. Right, let's move on. Let's have a little look at Disney. So I was actually, I've just come back from Disneyland Paris. I can tell you they are definitely booming from what I've seen. I've probably boosted this stock myself with the amount of money that we spent. You can see it even gapped up here, so maybe it was on me going. But on a serious note, again, we have this unfilled gap. You know, and normally, you know, it's good to mark those levels down around that kind of 100 level. Okay. Let's have a little look at the weekly. See, the weekly is actually, it's actually trending down. It's channeling down. Okay, so my children actually loved it on a unrelated note. So yeah, I mean, for me, kind of using this channel, let's have a little look at the candle. So it's a strong candle. I quite like this as a potential break. However, I don't know if I'd want to go. I mean, this is channeling down. This is trending down. I don't know if I'd want to go against this trend. So for me, I'd probably wait and see what happens. I think for short-term traders, I think that 100 level looks like good value to me. But how far up are we going to go? I mean, I do like these levels up here. I mean, from 100 to 150 is a 50% move. That would be pretty decent. Let me draw trend line. Oh wow, look at that. Right at resistance. So yeah, right now, I mean, the gap fills at 100. I mean, look at the RSI. RSI is overbought. Let's see what happened last time. So here we were overbought. We went down to the 8 and then went up. Here, overbought. We went back to the 50 here. Overbought. We actually had a really significant drop. Here we were overbought, went a little bit higher, eventually dropped. I mean, the MACD is showing strength, but again, overbought. I would say, you know, based on history, going back to at least the yellow moving average makes sense, which is 102. So, you know, the 100 that we mentioned also really does make sense, the gap fill. So I would probably look for a short-term move, maybe from 100, maybe up to here, 107. But in terms of the bigger move, I think it's too high risk right now. I would be looking for potentially some kind of break, okay? So maybe something like this, break, and then test, and then potentially higher. Okay, so let me know if anybody has any questions. I'm just going to take a sip of water, and then I'm going to move on to some other stocks. Okay, let's move on. The next one I've got here on my watch list is Visa. So there's all talk of, you know, crypto's taking over, but, you know, credit cards, Visa is still doing extremely well. I think, to be honest, they're kind of working in conjunction with crypto now. Looks like the future, but sticking to the technical analysis, you can see the weekly chart, very, very strong. If I just zoom out, look at this trend. We had a little bit of a pullback back in 2021, but since then, nice moving averages fanning. We're just pulling back to the 8, and then we just looks like we're just continuously trending higher. So really like this one. If you look at the indicators, the MACD is essentially again converging. Let me show you so you can see price action, and then same with the RSI. We are overbought on the RSI. You know, I mean, this is an example where we were overbought. The market, the RSI did drop, but in this case, we didn't really pull back much. I mean, possibly back to the 21, around 260 is possible. But right now we have not even turned down. So I would kind of wait for this to at least turn down. You know, if I just remove my, yeah, you can see it did turn down here. And here, where the market dropped. And this bit, this little bit here is where it started to drop. So I would wait for the RSI to at least turn down, and then we can start to look at potentially some kind of correction. Okay, but really like that, strong trend. Let's have a little look to see if there's any gaps on this one as well. Yeah, we do have a little gap, so that gets filled around 277. I think that's a good value area. I do. I think that's a pretty decent area around that sort of 277 for a potential long. Just trying to find line of best fit. Yeah, I mean that. So any kind of, I mean, what's the RSI? So RSI is overbought. We did have a correction before. Overbought. We did have a correction. Overbought. We did correct. And then overbought. Eventually we corrected. So I do think we are due a correction. I think a pullback, either back to the support line or back towards the gap fill. So somewhere between 275 and 277 looks to me like a good value area for Visa. Okay. Let's have a little look at Estee Lauder. Now I want to start with a weekly. So you can see this has suffered a little bit. The trend is down. It's doing the opposite in terms of fanning. The 200 is above the red, which is the 50. The 50 is above the blue, and the blue is just converging there with the yellow. Okay. Let's try and, in fact, let me see if I can do a channel here. Yeah, so you can see support, support, resistance, resistance. So no gaps. What we could do here is could actually consider the Fibonacci. So we've got an A, B, C, 50% pullback. And where's the 1618? 1618 is Let me just double check that. Yeah. So there's the 1618. I want to see where the 200 is as well. Yeah, that looks to me like the level. So normally, I always, on the first swing of an up move, I always look for the 200 extension. That comes in around 197. I actually think that's where we're going to kind of reject. I think we're going to potentially go up towards 197. And I actually think it's also a level, so past support becomes resistance, and we rejected it there. No reason why we're not going to reject it here. I think around that kind of 197 looks like a decent short opportunity. So if you want to have a bit of a hedge in your portfolio where you've got longs and shorts, I think selling around that kind of 197 looks like a decent play there in this stock. Okay. Next one is Tesla. Let's see what Tesla's doing. So Tesla is pretty rangy. Okay, pretty rangy. Not a lot going on. Let's draw a channel. There you go. So again, not that tradable. I mean, you could trade it up and down. Quite tricky to see if we can find a level we can target. Something that reacts. That's pretty decent, but it's too low. Quite light. I think there's a level. It's not a bad place. Somewhere there. That level is 230. Okay. Let's head to the hourly time frame. See if there's anything we can play. I'm going to draw the, whoops, wrong way, pips. A, B, C. There's the 200. Comes in at 223. I quite like this price action here on the MACD. Okay. You know, it's come back to the zero line. It's crossed back up. That looks like it's you know, going in line with the potential move higher. Okay, and the RSI actually has made a higher high even before the price action has, so that's a good sign as well. Now, we haven't mentioned the stochastic yet, and that's simply because the stochastic is generally quite good with rangy markets. Okay, so because this is quite rangy, this area here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you know, I want to bring it in and show you how it works. Right, so here it is. What we want to do is we want to see if past signals have worked, okay? So what you don't really want, I think you can see here, you can see overbought for a long time. I'm going to try the slow stochastic because that can sometimes give us slightly better results. Yeah, it tends to be, this one looks a little bit less noisy, doesn't it? So let me use the slow one, okay? So you can see here we were overbought, so what we're trying to find is, does this work on this particular chart? Okay, so you can see here we have overbought, and then the market did go down. But here I'm not really a big fan of this, where we're staying overbought for quite some time. And then here, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the lower time frame. Let's see if we can get slightly better results on a lower time frame. So overbought, no, not really that great. Overbought, look, stayed overbought for a long time and then eventually did fall. What you can do is, and what I tend to do is try and find some support. So I'll just show you. Notice here that the stochastic had on this area here, if we can draw a support line right there. Potentially it's not letting me draw it. Okay, well, let me just draw it freehand like this. So you could say, well, this is a support area. If we break it like we did there, that could be the time to kind of exit any longs and then potentially take a short. Now here, again, if you kind of go below this 80 mark here, that would be your signal to maybe exit profits. It did fall a little bit, not a lot, but it's quite nice when it's kind of backed by the RSI as well. So this was like a decent signal. Market did fall off a little bit. And then here, the RSI had just missed out on the overbought, but it has started to turn down. The stochastic is starting to turn down. So again, this could be, short term, a little pullback. Okay, so it's very important that you have a look to see how the indicators are working. Is it worth using them? Are they, essentially, are they working? Okay, and if they're not, then you don't want to use them. Okay. Right, let's move on. Let's have a little look at Adobe. We'll just try and flick through some more, see where there's some opportunity. So I'm going to bring in the weekly. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the stochastic because it's, out of all of them, it's probably our least favorite. I think we've got too many things on the charts, okay, which makes it quite hard to see. So let's clean this up a little bit. That's what happens when you're doing your technical analysis. You end up with so many lines. Now, notice something interesting here on this. What do we see on the indicators? Okay, beginning with D. Just shout it out, even if you're watching the recording. There is divergence. Okay. So that is showing us some hidden weakness. So I would say that there's a decent chance that this is going to potentially fall even more, potentially, back towards this support line here. So even though you can see that the market has been, it's got nice moving averages, fanning nicely, this divergence on these indicators is showing us that the market is likely to push lower. Now, again, let me have a little look at the hourly time frame. Let's see if there's anything interesting there. Nothing majorly interesting as such, no gaps that I can see. We have a nice 200 moving average here, which is able to support. That could be a nice area to short this around 593. In fact, it looks like a very nice zone, maybe just below that, around there. I'd say that looks like a nice block. I would put this as like a block like that up until the 200. And then what we can also do is we can potentially just have a little look at the fib as well. That's the 618 right there, aligns perfectly in that box. So that comes in around 591. So I actually like the idea of a push up towards 591 and then a push lower, okay, which then matches what the weekly is showing us. So for me, this one, Adobe, right now, I would be looking to potentially short around between 580 and 594. The 618 is coming in just around 590, so that looks like the preferred area of entry. Right, let's have a little look to see the next one. What have we got? We've got Meta, okay, Facebook, basically. So nice gap that we might want to fill. Indicators look bullish. The MACD looks bullish. It's come back to the zero. It's above the zero line. It's crossed up. Okay. It has not yet made a higher high. The price is equal highs. So this is lagging a little bit of weakness. And then we do have an overbought RSI. So I think pullback looks more likely, and I like the gap fill. I think somewhere around 409, 410 looks like a decent value point on this one. Unity Software, you can see the MACD is just crossed up. RSI was oversold. So this one on the shorter time frames looks good. Let's see if it's backed by the higher time frames. So the higher time frames do look very, very rangy. Looks like a nice one for day trading, range trading. Let me see. Get back to the hourly time frame. Yeah, very, very tight price action. You can see it really doesn't move a lot. So yeah, it doesn't look like the best one to trade. Okay. I think it's a smaller cap stock. Let's go and have a little look at some other ones. This is Roblox. I think this is an AI play. Again, really not a lot going on there. What about Autodesk? This looks like it's coming out of a range here. Nice price action, indicators confirming the smooth MACD RSI, but again, look at the previous time we were overbought, market sold off. And then here, overbought. We did pull back to the 50, overbought, went sideways for a little while, overbought, we did pull back. So most of the times it will pull back here. So I would be looking for potentially a pullback, maybe to around here, okay, somewhere there. Around that kind of 211 looks like a decent level to target for potential then longs. Right, let's have a look, another couple more before we finish up. So Nvidia, really strong, still going. It's incredible, this stock. Really kind of dominating this space, you know, with graphics cards and with AI around as well. It's become even more popular with and also with mining and so on. So you can see here the indicators are confirming this move, making higher highs. RSI has actually still got a bit more room to go. So I really like this one. I think this is a really nice one. We're not even overbought yet on the weekly. There is room to go. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, we are well overbought. So I thought we were not overbought, but actually, let me correct that. We are very much overbought, and let's see what happened. So the last time we were here overbought, the market actually just went sideways. That's how strong this is. And it just kind of hogged the 21. I wonder if it's going to do something similar here, where it's going to just consolidate, let the 21 catch up, and then go again. That's, it's important to kind of study previous times. I mean, that's what you kind of want to see. If it goes sideways and then this happens, that's very, very bullish. You can see it breaks this kind of little RSI trend line there, and then the market goes higher. And then here, similar level. Again, this one actually did correct a little bit more. And then here, similar level. This really just continued to go higher. So really, I think any kind of corrections, any pullbacks look like good buying opportunities on this one. Let's see if there's any gaps. Yeah, there's a clear gap there. The gap fill is around 680, so that's a really nice entry zone for me. Looking to buy around 680, it's about 100 points lower than where we are right now. Let's look at one or two more. We've got Microsoft. Right, Microsoft is in a very nice strong trend. Really like this one. Again, we are a little bit overbought. The indicators are converging, so overall the market is looking higher, but potentially we're just going to consolidate here. Maybe we could even pull back towards the sort of like between the 21 and the 50 moving averages there. Let's draw a trend line here. That's it, not that. So there's your trend line. That would be quite a decent pullback if we were to go that low. But at the moment, there's no sign of that. You can see it really just stays in a very predictable range. You don't tend to get really massive corrections. Well, certainly not recently anyway in Microsoft, okay? So I would think it's more likely to continue to kind of grind up, maybe a little bit of a pullback. And let's see if there's any other interesting ones here. This is Qualcomm, and again, this one, it looks like it's just starting its trend. So it's created a bit. One of the things that you need to kind of understand is, stocks create a base, and then the longer the base, the more likely, the bigger the move it's going to be when it actually comes out of that base. So here you can see that it's been basing for quite a long time, and even prior to that. And often, if you do break out, this distance here, they say, is how far up it's going to go. There's no definite science to it, but that's often what can happen. So you could end up having quite an explosive move higher than this one, but it's at a high point right now. It's a little bit risky to be buying it at a high point. Ideally, it would be better to be buying it at these kind of low points down here. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions at all. We've covered quite a lot of different stocks there. I want to kind of just finish up with some general advice. I also want to give you guys some handles that you can kind of contact Capital Markets Elite Group. But you know, I mean, just you know, to wrap up some very important advice. I think the most important thing is to be patient, to wait for your entries, to follow a set plan. You know, don't just jump into trades. You know, using indicators, you know, it's not a guaranteed method of, you know, success. However, what you are doing is you are improving probability, and that's what we are as traders. We are trading probability. We are looking for opportunities where probability is on our side. Okay, and we are also looking for opportunities with easy repeatable things. So, you know, one of the checks is, you know, is the market trending? Is the MACD converging? Is the MACD diverging? You know, is the RSI converging? Is the RSI diverging? Are we in a range? Are we in a trend? You know, are we overbought, oversold on the RSI or the stochastic? So these things are very black and white. Now, on top of that, you know, it's very important to check, like I showed you this evening, you know, are the signals working? You know, how did the last one do? How did the previous one do? You know, as a kind of rule of thumb, look at the last 4 or 5 signals, and that will give you a good idea as to whether it's actually working or not. Okay, so if you, again, if you're watching the recording, I do encourage you to look out for the next one. So you can get in touch. There's the email there, UK Client Services at cmeelitegroup.co.uk. You've got the Facebook handle, you've got the Instagram, you've got X there, and the telephone number. So if you have any feedback, if you have any requests, if you want to know when the next live one is happening, so you can join live, this is the best way to contact and, you know, find that information out. Okay, so again, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in. I hope that you did get some value for your time. Thank you for taking the time to improve your education, and I will be with you again soon with another presentation. You take care, everybody, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.